Hey legends, we're back with another game review, and today we're looking at the hybrid deck building game SolForge Fusion. Created by some of the minds behind Magic the Gathering and Ascension deck building game, SolForge Fusion aims to bring together physical and digital card games into some sort of fusion of fun. So let's get into the review and see what the game's all about. In SolForge Fusion, players take on the role of Forgeborn, mighty heroes who wage battle across the planet Solace. They can wield the magic and power of the SolForge by summoning creatures and casting spells that level up when they're played. It's a lane-based combat game where players have 5 lanes into which they place, at most, 1 creature each. Creatures facing each other will fight. If a creature is unopposed in a lane, it will attack the opposing Forgeborn directly, reducing their health. The first player to reduce the opposing Forgeborn's health to 0 wins the game. That's pretty much the basics. But as with most deck building games like this, there's always a lot more nuance. Easy to pick up and play, but hard to master. Let's look at the pros and then some of the cons of this interesting new addition to the deck building pantheon. Pros. The world building and gameplay are super solid. I dig the 4 different factions: the tech-loving Aloyan, the nature-attuned Atera, necromantic Necrium, and the elemental nomads of the Tempest. Each faction feels distinct and has their own playstyle, which I loved. What's super fun about SolForge Fusion, however, is you get to fuse these factions together. So you'd have like a tech nature deck or a necromancy elemental deck. There's lots of awesome interactions that can be found between all the algorithmically generated faction decks. Speaking of cards, you get access to a bunch of different card types, including creatures, spells, and minion cards, all of which have beautiful artwork on them. One of the excellent systems, in my opinion, is that for each card you cast, it cycles back into your draw pile as a more powerful version, each card having 3 possible levels of power. So as the game progresses, the stakes get higher and the spells get more insane. As for game types, you'll have access to online battles, solo battles against AI, a roguelike campaign mode, and eventually, tournaments. There's also support for physical play at your local game store, but you can find out more about that on the SolForge Fusion website. Of the different game types, I found that the roguelite battle mode was my favorite, and was a good way to level up some of my decks while really putting them through their paces. I didn't get a chance to try any online play, but I did find the AI to be a pretty worthy adversary, for the most part. Okay, so it's done well so far, but what are some of the cons? So cards on the table. How could I not? I'm a big fan of deck building games and have played quite a few in my time, so it's hard not to compare this to its forebears. Compared to the fast and furious fun of Marvel Snap, the reasonably well-paced MTG Arena, or even just sitting down and playing a game of Dominion at my kitchen table, SolForge Fusion felt like a bit of a slog. The games seem to take about 15 minutes each to plow through, although sometimes they feel even longer. While the card interactions are mostly clear, sometimes they set up a cascade of additional interactions that not only left me confused, but also something in the animation meant that it took a while for them all to resolve, which just added to the additional length of the game. My final critique would be of the Forgeborn powers. So each of your Forgeborn, which is kind of the commander of your deck, have 3 single-use powers that increase in strength as the game goes on. Often there'll be an additional spell cast, or extra armor, or something like that. But at 3rd level, many of them are just a huge damage spell, and I was defeated on many playthroughs by just being hit for 10 or so damage out of nowhere. This just felt like a weird way to lose those rounds, and maybe it's just a case of get good scrub, but something in the balancing felt off to me. That's it though, those are my cons. So all in all, I'd say that I had decent fun playing SolForge Fusion. It was great to try a new deck builder and see some interesting mechanics forged together into something new and exciting. I think if they keep balancing the game and maybe speed up some of the elements of the digital version, that this game has a lot of potential. I'd also be interested to try it at my local game store and maybe see what it's like in the physical realm. It's definitely worth having a look at either way. Maybe give it a go and let me know what cool decks you forged, or if you liked it or didn't like it, down in the comments below. That's it for now. I'll catch you next time.